What's up, Dream Builder? Are you someone who's interested in creating a life by your design through all things real estate? Well, I can assure you, you are in the right place. Join me, your host, Casanova Brooks. I'm an award-winning real estate agent and investor as we uncover the top tips, strategies, and the mindset of the top real estate entrepreneurs across the world. Stay locked in because we're about to go on a journey that will change your life. What's up, Dream Builder? We are back again with another episode for real estate, and I'm excited to share with you someone who I would consider a thought leader, a business leader, and more importantly, a great person, Mr. Cliff Freeman. Cliff, you want to go ahead and say what's up to Dream Nation?
What is up, Dream Nation? How is everybody?
We're all good. We're all blessed. We're highly favored. We got another opportunity to turn our dreams into a reality. And so I know that you've been in the business for over 30 years, right? Giving wisdom, being able to really just create a life by your design through real estate. But talk to me about where did it all start from for you? Like, why did you decide to get into real estate?
It's been a long road and it hasn't all been super highway, that's for sure. I go back to when I was, I guess I was being carried around in my mom's womb. She used to joke with me. She was a realtor here in Dallas back years ago, back in the 60s and 70s. And she worked for a broker here, Evie Holiday, who had a little white house on Northwest Highway and Preston Road. And she would tell me that her water broke while she was showing a house and that I was literally born into the real estate business. And for some reason, I didn't take that the right way. And I swore that I would never get involved in the real estate business. But, I was fascinated by it because she would tell me stories. And I grew up in a very humble household. My parents scratched and clawed for every penny they made. And they managed to put me through a private school here, St. Mark's, for 12 years. And I really had no business being in there, but my parents wanted me to get that kind of an education. And I remember hearing my mom say things like, well, your tuition's due again. I need to go out and sell a house. And it was like on demand. She would just go out and, sell a house and find clients and so forth. But I went on and did sort of a traditional start, and I got my license fairly early. But honestly, I got to tell you, I have never, to my knowledge, had a resume or held what people would consider. I mean, I worked at Jack in the Box and, pumped gas and stuff in a very early age at Exxon, but that was my stint in the oil business. And since then, I really have, I've kind of been an entrepreneur, I guess, and have the associated limp that comes with that in my right leg. But, it's been quite a journey. Real estate, is just one of those things that, I don't think people get into real estate. A lot of us don't intentionally. We have a culmination of life experiences, of business experiences, and learning and growth that we bring into real estate that helps us succeed. I mean, if you go to college and get a degree in real estate, it's not about real estate sales. They teach you real estate development and all of the legal and title. It's just like your license, right?
Right.
All of the stuff they teach you in real estate school, we have to not unlearn, let me back up. We have to augment the learning that went on during real estate school to teach people how to run a business and make money. And that's something that I've been really interested in, is business building. And I've got a number of ventures that I've been involved with in the past, some successful. And, we also have those ones we don't like to talk about, but, I think that's what makes us. And so anyway, I got my license back about 33 years ago, and it's been a great ride and a lot of adventure along the way.
Got it. Now, you've seen so many ebbs and flows, right? Crashes and recessions and so many things. But over these last 5 years, 6 years, really, we've really been in a seller's market. And a lot of people have had to figure out how to reinvent themselves. And so what do I mean by that? A lot of people for 20 some odd years, they had a referral base, they had a sphere. But then all of a sudden people started to, maybe die off, unfortunately, or they just lost connection. And then they had to figure out how to reinvent themselves through the internet, through branding, through marketing. for you, has that ever, like, did you have to do that as well? Or was there something that you did to be able to not have to go back into selling real estate?
Well, and that's what, boy, we could, this is going to start a conversation that may go on for a couple of days, but what really happened, what strikes me really is when COVID hit, because there were a lot of agents who relied on, like the soccer moms being part of that affiliation, with the neighborhood, getting together, the PTA meetings, the soccer games and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, and that was their only mode of lead generation. And so, there were some visionaries, one being Glenn Sanford, who started eXp. Glenn was one of the first to really use websites with IDX, the data exchange, so that, like Zillow, similar to what Zillow has now, what they do have now that they're licensed, but to use that for buyer lead gen, the internet, that was a new thing. And what's really separated and will continue to separate those agents who are really making the most money and those who don't is their ability to manage the technology and use that. Back in the old days, when I remember growing up, and the broker was really responsible for the leads. Buyers and sellers went to the broker first, and then the broker would pass the lead on to the agent. Well, that's completely flipped upside down now. The brokers honestly don't add a lot of value anymore. Okay. And I'm a broker, and I was an independent broker for a long time, no longer. But the fact of the matter is, as agents now have the ability to generate leads on their own through either pay-per-click or social media, or gosh knows how many different types of things you can do with the internet to lead generate. So it's real estate has evolved, and in the past couple of years has changed at an exponential rate, as you see, things really get stirred up here with all of the innovation and disruption that's going on. But it's been quite a ride. I still have a lot of clients from a long time ago. I do business with their kids and repeat business, and the lifetime value of a client is still there. But if you're not continuing to stay on top of the technology and to understand the new models that are out there now in real estate, then real estate is changing. It is not at all like it was. It's not your mother's real estate, is like I like to tell people.
Yeah, for sure. And just like you said, for so many people, they had relied pre-COVID, right, on just being face to face. But then when all of a sudden COVID hit, they then had to figure out how to pivot themselves. And what I find is a lot of people, they wait and they become reactive rather than being proactive. And so you brought up the point of eXp, and obviously it's a company that you and I both are, it's changed our lives. But talk to me about the first time that you saw the model of eXp. Was it something that you instantly knew you had to be a part of, or did you resist it and say, I'm not going to do that?
Yeah, and I love to tell the story because it was such a life changer for me. And I had been an independent broker for 9 years, and really, my expertise was in lead generation, and coaching. And I started coaching agents back in 2008 when I was my mom's caregiver before she passed away, because it was a convenient way for me to earn some money without having to work nights and weekends and sell as much real estate. After she passed, I continued to coach, got more heavily involved in back in real estate, but I continued to generate massive amounts of leads all over the country for agents. But what happened that moment, Google has a term they use called the zero moment of truth, right? That's when the prospect, punches the button or whatever it is they do to, start the transaction off. So I'm working with Mike and Jay at NAEA, and we had our Exponential Growth Summit in Dallas. Josh Altman was there, the millionaire listing guy in LA. I think Vern Harnish was the other keynote speaker. I think Gary De Rodriguez was there. But nonetheless, we were wrapping up on a Sunday, and I've known Brent Gove. You've met Brent. Brent sort of invented the open house on steroids. And he's a frequent speaker at a lot of events. Well, Brent and I got to know each other through my association with NAEA, and he would come in and speak and so forth. And so the last day of our exponential growth summit, we're wrapping up, and Josh is signing, his book. People are in line, and I look up, and there's Brent Gove, and he looks disheveled. It almost looked like the Transfiguration. His hair was like standing up, and his eyes were red, and it was very unlike Brent to look like this. And as he approached me, I could tell he was shaken. Something had happened to him. And he grabs me literally by the shoulders and walks me over into a corner and says, "Cliff, I want you to listen to me." He said, "I just got back from a meeting in San Antonio with about 300 agents with a little company called eXp. They had their shareholders meeting down in San Antonio. And I'm going back to Sacramento. I'm here to catch a flight. And when I get back, I'm getting rid of all my KW stuff. I'm leaving the market center in Sacramento, and I'm moving my $125 million a year team and my 40 agents over to eXp." Now, there's a young lady over here with long blonde hair. She's in line to get her book signed by Josh. Go find her. She has a webinar I want you to watch. And that was my introduction. Okay. So it created interest, obviously, and it was from somebody that I really had a lot of respect for. So I was going to follow up whether I believed it or not. I was in. So I went over and found Sheila Fejeron, who actually had brought, that's another interesting story too, about how Brent got aboard. And sure enough, she showed me the webinar, and this is no kidding. I swear on a Bible, for 3 days, I had eXp insomnia. I could not sleep a wink. And the reason why.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. What was the reason?
Well, the reason why was for about the past 18 months, Mike and Jay and us as a coaching company had worked with, Jay Abraham had suggested that we look at some other models. So we were trying to contemplate what would be a better coaching model than dinging everybody's credit card once a month for $1,500, $2,000. There's got to be a way, because the life of our client, it was really, in many cases, less than a year. So we were trying to figure out how could we associate with people longer and add more value, pour more value into their lives, and create a partnership. So the idea came up about, well, let's partner with people. We'll provide the coaching for free, and we'll just take a piece of the business, right? So we had been thinking through this process, and we just didn't have the correct model. But when I saw the eXp model, I knew with beyond the shadow of a doubt. And I will say that I used to work on Wall Street. I have an MBA in finance and entrepreneurship from Rice University, a double E undergrad. I had some schooling, okay, and I knew how to read financials and SEC filings and so forth. So I poured through all of the filings. In 2015, about a year before, eXp had gotten a public currency through a vehicle known as a reverse merger, which is a way to go public without any of the expenses that you would have at an IPO, okay? And no stock dilution, no warrants to the investors, none of that stuff that other companies right now that are trying to copy eXp. If you look at the balance sheets, they're completely different. We have no long-term debt. It was a beautiful thing. Mr. Wonderful would have been very excited had he known about eXp at the time, but he didn't, okay?
Right.
So having said that, I was on board before I could get the words out of my mouth. I mean, I was so taken aback by the whole business model that I said, by gosh, if we can get the right people in here to help take this thing to fruition. I know it's not perfect right now, but with the right talent in the right places, this thing can go to the moon. And it was at that point that hook, line, and sinker, I was in and started the journey. And so that's how that happened, Casanova. I mean, It was very interesting. And, I will say this, at 58 years of age, I was making great money coaching and selling real estate, but I was on the transaction treadmill. And I didn't want to be the 75-year-old guy schlepping snotty-nosed kids around in the backseat of the car while the parents were arguing about the appliances and the carpet in the house I just showed them, okay? So I was afraid I was going to outlive my money. Well, thanks to the good Lord and thanks to eXp, I now am earning in excess of, well, 6 figures a month, way more than that. That is passive income, totally passive. And I've got location freedom, time freedom, and for the first time in my life, financial freedom. So it's been a great journey in the last 4 years.
So talk to me about, there's two things first. The first thing is most of the time when you talk to someone that's 50 plus years old, right? A lot of the times they think like, you know what, I'm just at the end, right? Like I don't want to go through, like it's almost that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I'm comfortable. How for you were you able to get into, because essentially this was almost starting over, right? Because you didn't know who was going to come with you, who was going to believe it, partnering up with you, switching their brokerages. There's so much there. How were you able to, one, fix your mindset to say, hey, you know what, I can do this. I can get into the trenches again and essentially build this startup.
Yeah. I answer to a higher calling. I answer to a God that is really big, and I'm not afraid of the things that he can do. And what I can tell you is that, being an entrepreneur all my life, I've always been on the side of taking risks and not being afraid to do things that other people wouldn't do. I mean, success lives outside your comfort zone. If you're not willing to get out and take some risks, then you're going to wind up where every 90% of the people in this world do, which is broke at the end, and you're not going to be fulfilled, and you're not going to have freedom. And so to me, money is great. It gives you options. And as long as I can breathe, my wife asked me, she goes, what are you going to do when you retire? And I said, honey, I have retired. I just like what I do. I
Right.
mean, I don't, why retire when now my revenue share group has grown to almost 6,600 people. I can touch more people now closer than I ever have and impact more lives and help more people than I ever have. I'm just getting started. I mean, come on, don't tell me, don't ask me why I did this. Let's get this train rolling, and it's got a long way to go. By the way, my kids are in my business. My legacy is going to be fulfilled, and we're building something that's going to help put our dent in the universe as a family.
Wow. I love that. Over 6,600 people. So for anybody who's listening to this that is maybe already in eXp, but they have not been able to grow that part of it, or they can't even fathom that type of a number. What did it look like when you first got started? Were you lucky enough to be able to bring over maybe 100 of your clients that you were already coaching, or what? Or did you really have to get into the trenches and make some phone calls or do
Yeah.
some coffee and lunches?
Do I have to talk about this part? Of course, I didn't come over with a team, right? I didn't at that particular time. I now have a team, and I'll just, I'll click down a rabbit hole real quick. But the beginning of last year, when my son and my daughter got they got out of school and were getting out of school and got their licenses, I said, you know what? If we're going to own a restaurant, we need to own a restaurant here, or be in the restaurant business. We need to own a restaurant. I said, let's start a team. And my son and my daughter, who were, at that time 19 and 24, looked at me like I was like, how do we do that? And I said, well, don't worry, I've been doing it for a while. And so beginning of last year, we had nobody on our team. We finished last year with 40 agents on the team. And, we cover a good bit of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex now.
Wow.
So, it's been it has caused me to understand that it is never too late. I kind of want to go back to what you said earlier,
Yeah.
because I know we've got people watching and listening to this podcast who are thinking that it's too late, and we've missed it. I might as well just continue to do what I'm doing and so forth. And I would just say one thing right now: what I've been able to build in 4 years, people are going to be, and Dave Kennard said it today on a call. He's the president of eXp. He said there'll be somebody who joins eXp this year who's going to do what you've done in half the time. And the reason why is because the opportunity, the sheer volume of agents who are coming over is going to dwarf what we've done in the past 11 years in the next year. I mean, it is literally, when you think about the size, we just opened up Brazil. We've got worldwide exposure that's right around the corner. And I'm sure you recall the theory, the 6 degrees of separation, right? You know,
Right.
the theory about that. It's always funny. I joke with people. I said, well, we've got 7 levels of compensation that beats the 6 degrees of separation. And they go, what do you mean? And I say, well, look, I'm only 6 people away from anybody in the world at any given time, right? That's what that theory says.
Right.
I've got 7 levels. That means that I'm going to have people all over the world providing income for my family for the rest of my life, my kids' lives. This is generational wealth we're creating. So we're building something that has never even been conceived of in the history of the real estate business.
I love
And
it.
perhaps not in any other business at all. It's not the MLM. It's not a pyramid thing. Okay. It is true revenue share that is built around the notion of putting the agent at the center of the transaction where they belong. It's never been the broker doing the heavy lifting, yet they're the ones that have received the compensation and the glory. Now it's time for the agents to take it.
Yeah. Were you someone who you used to heavily rely on brick and mortar?
Well, we all did, sure. Yeah, the market center that I was the productivity coach at, you know, at another franchise, had about 275 agents, and it was a huge, you know, brick and mortar monument to the owners.
How were
Of
you
course.
able to flip your mindset when you said, hey, you know what, I'm thinking about joining this revolutionary brokerage, but I then will not have a brick and mortar anymore?
So that's a great question, and I would say that I was prepared for it because of, you know, I spent years coaching people all over the country. And so we were using Zoom before Zoom was even known to most people.
Mm,
Okay. It used to be Citrix, what was it, join a meeting or whatever it was. I mean, there were some really lousy attempts to come up with something like Zoom. But once Zoom got to a certain point, we did all our coaching calls on it. And we would do team calls. And before you know it, you know, I started enjoying it because I didn't feel pressured to go into the office. You know, it saved me time. People got together quicker. If they had, you know, schedules that were tight, you know, we could still have the meeting and that kind of thing. So I started to realize the efficiencies. And of course, Glenn Sanford realized that when he took eXp from the beginning and said, we are going to be a virtual company always. Now, this is before Verbella really got, you know, good with the technology. And if you go back and look at some of the early stuff, it is kind of amusing, you know, to see how they were using it. But the reality is that they discovered that they could still have a culture and still run a business in a virtual world without having to have brick and mortar. Now think about that. I mean, if you look at a company like Keller Williams, I've estimated that it's as much as $700 million that eXp can return back because we don't have that overhead. And you know, when you look at that kind of money, then you can understand why it's possible to pay out as much money as eXp does in revenue share.
mhm.
So, you know, that's what's really interesting about the whole brick and mortar thing. And you know what? There are agents who are just not going to be comfortable not having that personal surrounding with, you know, their coworkers and things like that. And I get that. Some people just really need that to, you know, socially to survive. And then there are others who, you know, perhaps have their own needs and maybe they have a team and they'll continue to have, you know, a space for their team to meet and so forth. And eXp doesn't tell you you can't have a training room and an office and things like that. It's just that every corporate employee does not have an office to go to. They don't, they either work out of a Regis office space because we have a relationship with Regis, or they work out of their house. Even the CEO of our company worked out for 10 years, worked out either on his boat or in a garage apartment at his house up in Washington State. So, you know, we eat our own dog food. We do what we say, and you know, we have no problem with the virtual world. It's not perfect, but it sure is a lot better, especially when COVID came. Casanova, you recall we were going around and all of the eXp folks were looking at each other saying, we were built for this,
Right.
right?
Right.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
No, there's so much there, and I'm glad that you really broke it down in layman's terms, and I think anybody can appreciate that. The one thing that I would still be wanting to know is you went in 4 years, you went from 0 to 6,600 people. There's
Mm.
somebody out there that's wondering whether it's real estate sales or they're just trying to grow their team, no matter what brokerage they're at. What was the fundamentals? How did you do
Yeah.
that?
That's a great question. And I've got a graph, but I probably won't show it here. I'll see if I can describe it.
Yeah.
Um, I started out bringing on about an agent a month. I mean, I tell my kids I was off like a herd of turtles. Okay. I did not get a quick start here because I didn't really know what I was doing. I wasn't a recruiter. I'd always been in the teaching and coaching and training business, but I just started calling people that I knew and that I liked and that I thought would be excited to hear about the opportunity. And so, one at a time, they started showing up. And gradually, after about the first year, I had 12 people that I had brought over personally, with the company. And then they started bringing people over. My first year, I think and I don't know if we're allowed to talk about numbers, but let's just say that the passive income that I earned the first year was not enough to replace my real estate income. So for me, I had to continue to do transactions, and because we're sort of swapping time for money when we're doing real estate and coaching, and I had to do income replacement because I had to keep that money coming in, keep my lifestyle up, and then I could open up my calendar a little more as I started to build. Well, that took me a year, right, before I started making enough money because I just didn't know what I was doing. There was very little at that particular time. We only had 1,500 agents. People. The first call that I made to somebody, a friend of mine, about eXp, I rang him on the phone and said, "Hey, by the way, I'm looking real hard, and I'm joining this company called eXp. Would you take a look at the business model? Have you heard of eXp?" And he goes, thinks for a minute. He says, "Are you getting out of real estate?" I said, "No." He goes, "Why?" I said, "Why?" He says, "Well, the only eXp I remember seeing is up in Walmart next to the Tide. There was a bottle of eXp up there. Isn't that laundry detergent or something? And nobody had heard of it, right? So you can imagine the things. It's just like back in the days when it was Keller who, right? Are they Sherwin-Williams, right? No, 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 no. So everybody goes through that. Look, every new company is going to go through that. But, over time, I began building. And what I did is I was pretty particular about who I wanted to be in business with. So I really focused on people that I knew would be driven and have an appetite to really make this thing grow. That was our whole thing, was we've got to scale this and grow it. So I started calling more friends and people that I knew, relationships that I had, some people I didn't know, but they knew of me and I knew of them. And I just asked them if they would please take a look at the model and give me their opinion. And the more people who saw the model and really took the time to unpack it, look under the hood, and see what was really making it tick, the more people started to come over. There's a lot of people that would get all their information from other people in their own business, their own company. That's like going to the Ford dealer, right? Asking them about a Ford and then saying, "Hey, what now? I'm also looking at a Tesla. What do you think about Teslas?" I
Right.
mean, the Ford dealer is not going to have anything good to say about Tesla, right?
Right.
I mean, think about it. If you go into your broker and you say, "Hey, I'm going to work at a new broker, but I really appreciate all you've done for me. I'm going over to eXp." That broker is not going to extend their hand and say, "Man, that's the best decision you could have ever made for your family. Congratulations," right? The world just doesn't work like that, right? So we've had a lot of, things that we've had to deal with along the way, but now everybody seems to have accepted eXp as something that's going to stay. And so the strategy about attracting agents now has changed a little bit. We're not the ones that are getting the rocks thrown at us, okay, and people calling us names and things. People are actually coming to us now wanting to know what in the heck is going on, right? People follow people in this business. And if you look at some of the marquee names that have come over here, then it's pretty easy to figure out why other people are coming. I mean, you had Grant Cardone on your show recently, right?
Right.
He just announced he's joining eXp, right?
Yeah, we talked about that briefly.
You know, there's a reason. These people are not stupid. Hang around people who make more money than you do, and then guess what's going to happen?
You're going to make more money.
You're going to start making more money. Exactly.
I love
So
it.
for me, it was a slow start, and over time, because the company is growing so fast, and this is the beauty of I love the compound effect by Darren Hardy. But what we're in right now is exponential growth. And when you get your snowball so far down the mountain, eventually that snowball is going to take off on its own and continue to grow. And I'm adding about 600 plus agents to my group organically without even, honestly, I don't know who they are, but I'm sure glad they're coming.
Right.
But that's what happens when you get to a certain size, you see. And so from here, now my responsibility is more pouring into those people to help ensure that they're going to be successful. I want them to sell real estate. The more real estate everybody sells, the more money everybody makes. It's that simple. And as far as people who come over here just to recruit, I got to tell you, it's not a get rich quick scheme. Okay. This is not something you get in, you show up, you get a bunch of your friends and family to buy the protein powder and this is not what it is. It's not what it is. We are a real estate company and we sell it. We did 75,000 transactions as a company in the third quarter of 2020. That's about 3 per agent. And that's with many of them, because we're growing at 10% a month. Many of them had not even onboarded and been able to get a transaction under contract yet. Okay. So if you look at our statistically, at NAR, half the real estate agents who have a license and remember don't even do one deal
Right.
a year. So pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
So amazing. And you gave so many nuggets there, right? And the biggest thing is to understand that even if you start off slow, right, with that compound effect of just what you said, if you keep putting in the right action and strategies, and this is not only applies to any type of agent attraction, but it really just, when you get into your real estate business, if you just got your license, understand that it might take you 6 months, it might take you 9 months, but if you stay consistent with your actions every single day, you will get an opportunity. And then that opportunity can obviously morph into another opportunity, and before you know it, in year 2, you went from 0 to now all of a sudden you're doing $15 million in volume. And how did it happen? It's because you just stayed consistent.
You know what? That is, if there's one thing that I hope people remember from this show, it better be that, because that is true with real estate. It's true with relationships. It's true with everything. Be consistent. Amen.
Yes, just keep showing up. If you have a wife, you know what I mean? You got to keep showing up every single day. You have to stay consistent with your actions, because otherwise someone will let you know about it. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I just got a couple last questions for you. Number one is so much wisdom that you've already given off, but if you could look back and you could implement one thing sooner, if there was one thing you wish you would have implemented sooner, whether it's in your 33 years or even in life, to accelerate your path on your journey, what would that one thing be?
Yeah, I think, I think without question, that would have been to reach out and to get mentorship and coaching much earlier than I did.
Mm,
There's a lot of us, including me, who thought we could do it all on our own, and the world just does not work that way. There is no owner's manual, to life, and if you don't get help and get in the right crowd, the right mentors, the right group, you're literally leaving yourself in a very difficult, a very dangerous position. You've got to surround yourself with great people who have great core values. And I say that because when I was younger, I did some stupid things, just like we all do. But when I got into the real estate business, I never saw the value in coaching. I was kind of one of those people that I kind of got in my own way and for a long time. But once I did see it, it completely changed me. And I'll tell you right now, I know that there are probably some agents in their first or second year who are struggling in this business, wondering if they even made the right choice. You know what the failure rate for people who get a license is, 82% don't renew their first renewal. They get in and they don't even get it off the ground, Casanova. So, I think that the message for me is, get out of your own way, admit that you don't, resign as master of the universe. You don't have to be, but go find who the master of your universe is and learn from them and find the best model that you can and just stick with it and then be consistent.
I love it. And then the last question that I have for you is, there somebody that's out there that they're very first off inspired by you, your journey, what you've been able to create over these 33 years, and especially in the last 4 of how you stuck with it, reinvented yourself and pivoted, and all of the things that we all look forward to being able to do whenever challenging times come. But they have that little voice in their head, and that little voice says that they're not strong enough, they're not smart enough, or maybe they just don't have enough resources. What's the one thing that you would leave that person with to get them to just take action?
Yeah. It's, I love Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins has helped me get the right mindset. Um, I would say if you could physically get to a Tony Robbins UPW, that would be a great start. But the reality is that you've got to find peace and you've got to identify your why. And when you can do that, when you can really say that I am here, what gets me out of bed is this. And the reason why I'm on this planet is this. And sometimes we don't know. You and I had a conversation earlier about a common trait that I seem to have found in successful people, and that's that they've had real struggles in their past. And remember, I told you, I said I had a pastor one time who said, sometimes God has to take you down to rock bottom before you realize who the rock at the bottom is.
Right.
And so, look at the struggles, look at the things you're going through as the journey. Okay. But it's going to get better. Enjoy the ride. Okay. You've got to take control of your own destiny. Get rid of the victim mentality. It's not anybody's fault that except yours that you're in the shape that you're in. If you truly believe that, you can start making better decisions and get yourself back on the right track where you can add value and continue to build. It's said that the living in contribution, you get paid back in abundance, right? So you've got to understand that there are enough grains of sand on the beach. You don't have to worry and live in a mindset of scarcity. You've got to change from that. And many of us need help. We can say this, but you have to really, really, really get your mindset and your whole psyche and your core in the right place. And that can require help. And, sometimes a good coach, or somebody who you really respect that has the right core values can help disciple you, can help you reach that place in your life where you're back in control of your destiny. And that's where you want to be, is in control.
Love it. Beautifully said, my brother. I love it. We will make sure that we put all of the links to your social media profiles and everything of how people can find you. But I want to ask you personally, for anybody who is looking to stay in direct connection with you, where would you recommend that they go?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm on social media. On Facebook, if you just search Cliff Freeman, you can IM me. My email address is Cliff, CLIFF, at cliffordfreeman.com. I'd love to hear from you, and just drop me a line. I'm an open book, and would love nothing more than to serve any of your audience, Casanova, in any way that I can, and always enjoy meeting new folks.
Yes, absolutely. Well, remember, Dream Builder, just as he said, you have to take control of your own life. And more importantly, you have to take action, because otherwise that dream that you have will only merely be a fantasy. That's all for this one. We'll catch you on the next one.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
If you've gotten anything out of this episode, do me a favor and head on over to iTunes if you have access and leave me a review. My whole goal is to make sure that I'm serving you all the right way. You're my tribe. You're who I care about. You're why I do this. So if you want to give me any type of thanks, or if you want to let me know whatever your thoughts or your feelings are from this episode or any other episode that you've listened to, leave me a rating or review. And also, if you're looking for more tips, strategies, and even resources when it comes to leveling up your real estate game, head on over to DreamNationAcademy.com. We have a really cool real estate section there, and it's something that I wish that I would have had when I first got started in real estate. So that's DreamNationAcademy.com. Don't wait. I'll see you on the other side.